Did Rebecca drop off a paper copy of those AARP surveys?
Yes.
Okay, I assume she did. She picked them up, but I wanted to make sure y'all got them.
Today.
Just FYI, it is being live streamed, so it is live now.
Yeah, I had that message pop up.
Hello.
So, we're waiting on some others, obviously, but we're already live streaming, so Matt could get us going.
Thank you for the warning. How are things at Town Hall today?
They are very good, busy, but good.
Good, good.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Hello.
Hey. So, where do you get things started?
I think we got a few more people we're waiting on, so
That's good.
I do want to thank you, Laura, for hooking me up with all of these all of these gigs with different groups. Laura invited me to the last Alzheimer's support group that was meeting over Zoom earlier this week to kind of talk about livable communities. And then next week, the Sedgefield Women's Club. So
No, it's the Women's Club, Southwest Women's Club of Southwest Guilford.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
I'm glad you reminded me so I didn't make a faux pas. Well,
No problem. We're a newer, younger club.
ooh.
So just kind of a different vibe as far as the kinds of things we do and the people we draw.
Just so y'all know, we are streaming live, so when we get started, we're all set up.
Mhm.
Hey, Pam.
Can't hear you. Can't hear you, Pam. You're muted,
Happy
Pam.
New Year to everyone. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
And to you.
Did get an email from Bob this morning that he was planning to attend, so.
Okay.
Pam, you live 3 doors down, and I don't think I've seen you in 6 weeks.
I know. I've seen Perry more than I've seen you walking.
Mhm, mhm.
I miss you.
Miss you too. Hope you had a good holiday.
It's quiet, yes.
Mhm.
You've been all over the place. Seems like you've had a great time.
Yeah, a little bit here and there, different kind of year. So,
Mm-hmm.
but good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ready. I'm trying to get my decorations down. My house is a wreck right now.
I know. I got all of mine down, but it's all hoarded in one place now, in one room. So now I've got to deal with that. But
Mhm.
Laura, did you see the Housewives of Whittington Hall tumblers at that they have at Guilford in Maine?
I think I saw the post for it, but I didn't realize that that's what it said. That sounds cute. I was there before Christmas
Mm-hmm.
on one of the Wednesdays, but I
Yep.
didn't see that at that time. I think they're new.
I don't think they had them then. I think they had them afterwards because Sherry posted it, and then a few people called me to say, "Do you want one? Should we get one?" And I was like, "I don't know."
I just heard that Bob showed up here at town hall and he was gonna run home and log in. So
Okay.
Well, I guess since should we wait till 4:05 on the dot or just jump on in?
that's up to you.
So is Bob the only one we're missing who said they were coming?
We'll be logging on shortly, but since this is streaming, I think we'll be okay as far as minutes. Oh, I'm letting her in now. So a couple others say they would try to attend, but I always think a try is not a email.
All right, I see Nancy is connecting, so. All right, well, we can just assume if Nancy's not connected via audio, like Anna said, this is being streamed, so she'll be able to get that. So thanks everybody for coming all the way to your living room or dining room or home office for today's meeting, and for pivoting so quickly on that. I think, it seems like a lot of meetings are going back to online now, so it's probably better safe than sorry for that kind of thing. And it's kind of nice to stay cozy at home when possible. But let's see. At our last meeting all the way last year, we were talking about next steps now that we have gotten the designation from AARP, and Bob told us about survey opportunity and that kind of thing. So I think I talked or texted with everybody about the surveys that I left in your mailboxes or front doors and that type thing. And so, we had seen the age-friendly community survey, I think on the website. We sent out a link after the last meeting, but I didn't find this coronavirus module one until I logged in earlier this week. So thank you to Anna for sending me that link of doing the kind of behind the scenes livable community website stuff. They had a lot of good stuff back there. But did folks have a chance to look at the surveys and kind of see what you thought?
Yep.
Anything jump out? Do you think it would be useful for us or parts of it?
On the age-friendly community survey,
Mhm.
I felt like there should be an additional response for I don't know or not applicable. I felt
That's a
like
good
several of the things I couldn't adequately rate it.
Good point.
And that is very long.
It is. I mean, I think,
Yeah.
because looking through and scrolling through it online, it didn't feel as long, but then once it's printed out, and then especially if we, if we want to do the survey and if we wanted to use any of the pandemic related questions too, which I think, some of them did seem like they could be really useful for us. I think there are probably parts that we can take out or maybe combine a few things.
Yeah, I don't think we need to leave in the part about asking if you're a member of AARP
Yeah.
or what the voting to. I don't want it to look like we've got an agenda other than what we really have in mind,
Yeah, I agree. Once at the end of that, it was just like, we're not using this to follow back up with you. I mean, I respect that the AARP uses this for all kinds of things.
Yeah.
But Bob really did talk about how this whole program and the survey, we're supposed to just tailor it to what works for us. And so I agree. Yeah, those didn't seem much. Do you think that we should do any of the demographic information beyond? I mean, I think we should ask, where they live so we can not that a rush of people from Nebraska is going to be filling out the Jamestown survey, but what do you all think?
Other than your zip code, why do you need more specific information? And if you're a resident of Jamestown, your zip code is going to be 27282.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think asking your specific age, as opposed to brackets of ages, might be a little more applicable.
Or are you wanting to serve, is this for Jamestown residents or is it also for the extra territory around us? I think if you do the whole zip code, we have to say, we're serving outside Jamestown too. And I don't know, that's not a bad thing, but we probably need to narrow it down to whether we are or not.
I think that, that it was somebody else. They didn't want to talk over anybody. I mean, I think that for most of these questions, they're general enough that it wouldn't be, I think a zip code would probably do it, even if we're catching people who technically are not, right in the center of Jamestown, just because if we were planning on expending a lot of tax money for a program that really needs to heavily only be tax-paying Jamestown citizens, but I think these are broad enough questions that we'll probably get similar answers.
Yeah, I think for the greater good, I mean, we don't mind people coming from outside Jamestown town limits to participate in what we're talking about.
Were there any other things that stuck out, or were there things that, like Laura mentioned, asking a specific age? Are there things that you feel like we're maybe missing?
Well, I think when it says community, we need to define exactly what that is, because obviously we're not going to have a hospital in our community, but some of these we might say community or radius or surrounding areas, because we have so many things that are close like hospitals, but we're not going to have that in Jamestown. And I don't want people answering it thinking that we're going to build a hospital in Jamestown. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that was something that was coming up with me because I'm like, is this going to end up being a negative if, people are saying, oh yeah, well, I wish we did have this and this. And it's like, well, we're not
Right.
a large enough town to do it. So yeah, I didn't know if we should just take those questions out, or I like your idea though, of just defining community and, saying it's around the whole triad or greater Jamestown area. Because yeah, we certainly aren't going to be redundant about things, and we don't have the funds to do it either. So
Or you could even talk about maybe how difficult is it for you to access these services.
Yeah.
Most of us pick and choose where we want to go and get there. Maybe we ought to, I don't know. Maybe we all need to catch the bus some. I've never been on a public transportation in this town.
Well, it only runs to GTCC through, I'm not even sure, it doesn't really go anywhere, but I think GTCC from High Point does it.
It goes,
We don't have
it goes up Main Street from High Point, but it does have at least 2 stops, I believe, on Main Street of Jamestown before going to GTCC campus.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't come up by town hall or the fire department or anything like that, right?
It does go by town hall. But this stop, I think, is a little farther down, but if you're not on Main Street, you're not getting on the bus, basically.
Right.
And the stops are not, how often does it even come through? Because I feel like I never even really see a bus come through, or you'd have to time it.
Well, and then also maybe asking how important is public transportation to you? I'm not sure what percentage of the population would want to or would if it was more readily available.
The bus that comes through, it's City of High Point, isn't it? Tran.
And it's during the week, I think it's almost every hour goes by.
What about Greensboro?
You've got the perfect window for it. You see it going.
Yeah.
What about Greensboro? Do we have the ability to get into Greensboro on a bus?
The only bus that goes through Jamestown right now is the Tran bus.
And that's, one of the things back at the Livable Communities Conference that Sherry Richmond and I went to back in November 2019. There are the 8 domains of livability, and transportation is part of that, and a variety of other things. But they really stressed, tailor your focus to certainly what your community needs, but also what your community can actually provide. And so when they were talking about transportation, they said, obviously a small town is not going to create your own system of transportation. So they now are really looking at, Uber and Lyft, and certainly like the community resources like church buses and the SCAT and VA and, the different buses and resources that citizens can tap into, but that aren't necessarily run by the town. Because obviously, like, we're not going to create a bus system. And, like Laura said, I think the question of like, how important is this to you, or how much would you even use this necessarily, is important too. And that was really going through a lot of these questions, more about, I agree about changing some of the language maybe to accessibility. So maybe looking at how much would you want this, or, is this something you even want? And then also, are these things accessible to you? Because there was, and I'm looking at page 8 on the main survey as question 19, says, thinking about health and wellness services in your community, how would you rate your community? Excellent, very good, such and such. And a lot of these questions talked about affordable health and wellness programs, affordable home care services, and that type of thing, which is really important. And I think, we need to keep that affordability piece, but also access too, because it could be that maybe it would be affordable, but it's not really accessible for other reasons. So I don't want it to, focus so much on the potential cost of a resource that it's like, yeah, it's cheap if you can get it to you, or, it would be cheap if they could get to you, or that kind of thing. So several of my notes on the pages were just sort of more about, do we either break these into two questions where one talks about cost and one talks about access, or just kind of reword it to access, knowing that that also includes financial access?
Yeah, it'd be nice if each category started off with a scale of how important is this to you,
Mm.
Mhm. Just to quantify. But when we look back at some of the things we thought that people would be nice to have, like additional meeting locations, or people don't take advantage of the Department of Parks and Recs because we really don't have it, other than the golf course, an active Department of Parks and Recs in the immediate area. Mm-hmm. So I know, thinking about if we had a senior resource center actually in the community, the kinds of things that it could offer with small group meeting locations up to bigger group meeting locations and social activities and educational activities. I know, looking at this, GTCC is very strong and prominent in our area. So I think if people are interested in educational opportunities, it's pretty easily accessible with that.
I think I also thought about reading this. Doesn't Guilford County offer transportation to people who are elderly and handicapped to get to appointments and such? You just have to schedule it through Guilford County. I think a lot of it is people just don't know, like we said before, people don't know what's available. So part of our job, some of these they would answer no to, and the answer could be yes, but they just don't know about the resources. So I don't know if there's any way to tie in letting them know about the resources when they do these surveys, so we don't get a lot of answers that aren't really,
That's why we need the I don't know. I don't know. We're not applicable.
Yeah.
Well, and I guess, then that could also, we could decide on what our timing would be. So, I mean, do you think that that's so prevalent that maybe instead of thinking of a survey right now, we should just for the next few months focus on resource gathering and just having, getting together comprehensive lists of resources, or go ahead and do the survey, but like what Laura is saying, have a lot of I don't know options. And then if a lot of people don't know, or if a lot of people are answering, this is not, we don't have this in our community, but we do, then that could kind of guide us into more of what resources we need to look into, or maybe it's a chicken or egg thing, but I don't know. Do y'all have feelings?
Well, I think that I think we should use the survey as a guide.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe
survey is
going to help us.
Exactly. I think that once we do the survey, we can kind of get a ground feel of, interest or what's needed. And then I think we can work off of what what we get back from the community and dissect it and analyze it, and then, go from there.
That's good. Yeah, that makes
sense. Because I kind of almost feel that if we put out resources, because I'm feeling if we put out something like with resources, we might be doing too much work or double work, because in some cases for seniors, a lot of times, or people with disabilities or what have you, sometimes they do have social workers or caseworkers who would really provide that kind of information about, getting additional services for transportation. That usually helps provide and direct. So I just don't want us to spend too much time and maybe overlapping and miss out on an area where we, can really use some, our resource via the research from the survey. I just think we should just go ahead and stick with the survey for now. I do. That's just my opinion, but
I want to mention
and
that
I
know
feel
that-
like if we narrowed the and I agree with Laura. There's a couple of things I feel that I think that we can amend it some kind of way, shorten it, and like Laura, with the suggestions that Laura said, and then incorporate the other coronavirus module questions in with it, because it is very long, and I just don't want people to get more discouraged about answering the questions where it's not going to be feasible or helpful for us. So those are my thoughts on it.
Now, I know that there are at least 2, and I would say 3 resource centers about services that are available. One of them's at the library, one of them's at the Methodist Church, and then actually in the Food Lion lobby, they've got a lot of resource materials there. So there, I know that there are some available. At the same time, I want to go forward with the survey, but I sure would like us to pick something that we all agree on and do something, something that's measurable and tangible and more than just collecting of data.
Such as what
I don't know, tapping into senior resources and starting some of the educational classes through the Civic Center or through the golf course, using one of the rooms there, or just what are some of the services that are available that we're just not tapping into and could go ahead and start offering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, I agree with what Pam said. That makes sense. And especially, building in Laura's idea about having kind of a scale of importance with the questions, because certainly we wouldn't want to spend a lot of time doing research on one particular area and then find out from the survey, like, well, it's important and it's all useful, but maybe this community doesn't really care that much about that, but their priorities are over here instead. So I think you're right. Doing the survey first would be good. We did, talk about, and this was several months back, that Bob and AARP do some virtual trainings and especially things about how to kind of do modifications in your home to stay there longer comfortably. And so I think, maybe if we built in a few virtual things just now, as we're still dealing with pandemic and that type of thing. And those are, I think there are several things like that are already, I don't want to say prepackaged like a negative thing, but things that are already, they know they have wide appeal and their presentations that are already available or easy to do. So maybe if we started kind of peppering those in over, the spring, and then once things, start to open up a little bit more and it's safer to get back together, we could have been also using this time for the survey. And then when we're able to, really promote people come together in person, have things that we already know from the survey that folks here are really interested in. Does that sound?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Great.
Well,
hey, Bob.
Good afternoon and Happy New Year. And I apologize to you, Anna, for reading your email quickly and assuming that this was kind of a two-way event. And I went to visit everybody at City Hall. But anyhow, I am with you. And I guess one thing, listening a little bit on the surveys, yes, the AARP survey is quite long and involved, but it's looking at the 8 domains of livability and trying to get input on that. And another way, if you're not ready to go forward with something that involved, is just to have people get together. Just bring people in together, or have a little bulletin board set up and look for people's comments. It can be very simple. It does not need to be overpowering. I think, Rebecca, you had mentioned some programs that we already have canned that are being offered. Three of the ones or four of the ones that seem to be of interest here in the last 3 or 4 months. We're doing Android phone and iPhone training. We're doing that in 2 separate events. We're doing a caregivers program that's more in tune for those that are offering the caregiving support. We're doing some fraud watch work. We're talking about the different frauds that are out there, and that seem to be new fraud challenges coming in front of us almost daily. So we talk a little bit about that. And then we also talk about home fit and some things that we can do to start planning on our home being a forever home. So those are kind of the four that we're hitting on right now that seem to be of interest. And those are canned and available and very flexible in those presentations.
Excellent. Yeah, that sounds great. Are there, what do folks think? Would we want to maybe pick one of those and think about starting with that and having virtual training? And if so, what appeals to people?
That fraud watch and home fit seem to be really important areas to me.
Well, we have trainers locally that can present that information. If for some reason we're not able to schedule, I'm able to pull facilitators in from across the country. So, we have access to many individuals that are willing to share these topics.
Excellent.
So hopefully this is a short-term blip of or a short-term wave, and that we can get back to at least protected face-to-face kind of activities.
Well, this is such a strange event. I was speaking with someone earlier this morning in Israel, and Israel's back to opening up everything again. They had shut everything down. They had shut flights down. But now their numbers are so attractive that they're in the process of opening the country back up again. So maybe that's promising. I don't know, but that was promising to hear at least one country experiencing that.
Well, let me real quick just kind of wrap up with the survey, the coronavirus portion. So do you all think at least some of these would be good to incorporate then, if we can, as we're looking forward?
Okay, so I guess the question is I don't know, what kind of actions are we likely to do as a result of that information? I think everybody's hoping that this is, we hoped after the vaccines came out that it was over. I don't know, within our realm of activities, I'm not sure.
Right. I think I know where you're going, Laura. Do we actually need to even incorporate any information about the coronavirus? I mean, do we need to really? I think everybody's pretty much aware of everything. I'm just trying to figure out how. I think, like you, Laura, how are we incorporating? Like, do we need? My thing is, look, I want, once we get out of it, I don't want to go back. I don't really care what anybody thinks about it anymore. I mean, but that's just me. But I'm just saying, like, how are we incorporating it with the community service? Like, how? Because I'm thinking that the questions for coronavirus is a now thing, whereas our community survey is more of a now and future thing.
Well, there were a couple,
I don't know.
There were two, let me see, questions 3 and 7 kind of struck me as something that were kind of like 3, have you or anyone in your household done any of the following due to coronavirus? And one of them was like continue using public transportation,
Right.
drove yourself around
Right.
more. And I could see adding to that, like maybe using the computer more or doing more virtual programs, which I think may have, some of that may have been touched on in the community survey as well. But if there are things that can capture sort of, in this odd time, were there things that you became more comfortable with? And so maybe someone who would have never done a virtual meeting before, just due to these times, they learned that skill and were able to do that more. And so that might be able to inform some of what we offer going forward.
Right.
Or,
Right.
question
Okay, I see
7
what you're
talks
saying.
about if you
Yeah.
feel more or less socially isolated or about the same. I mean, I think that could, yes, it maybe we're asking because of COVID.
Yeah. Okay.
but-
Right. So I can see question 3 and question 4. I don't think
Yeah.
question 5.
Mhm.
I'm not sure that question 5 would be pertinent.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about 4, but I do see, okay, now I do see, I mean, we could, question, I think that if we went through these questions and kind of dissect those maybe,
Mhm.
and pick out, like you said, the most important ones and incorporate that would be conducive to the community, then yeah. So question 3 is a definite one for sure.
And yeah, it could be that, we incorporate that in a way, or maybe there's sort of a similar question and it's just more of, in the past few years, have you done more of this? Or, talking about learning new skills just to kind of get an understanding of that.
Or do you focus a little more on the, going forward? Do you see the what do you call this? The virtual meetings, something you would choose to do? It's a new skill
Going
that almost
forward.
all of us have adopted. I think some of us are going to love it and some of us are going to hate it and are ready to get back to the face-to-face. But it probably is going to suggest that any of the kind of future meetings have an element of both. Now that skill is out there and the technology, just overcoming the ability to do the technology.
And I wonder if, there are folks who, have been caregivers for a long time, or maybe have not been able to get out to meetings, if this has increased their connection to opportunities because they're able to do it from home. So, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the challenges, though, with our age-friendly community, aging in place, is that technology is going at warp speed as it changes, and the older population has a history of not keeping up. And so if we shift a lot of services and resources online, does that really meet the needs of the organizations who are trying to service?
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I think we can ask too is, maybe we can put in there is, is there someone, that lives in your home currently that's a millennial that actually helps you access a lot of that technology? And the reason why I say that, it would also kind of give us a kind of sort of a breakdown too of, ages in the home. But also I noticed that, like my son doesn't live with us anymore, but when he's home, I grab him to teach me every piece of technology I think God needs outside of what my husband knows or whatever. But you know what I'm saying? It's like I kind of learn from the younger ones about how to use certain things, but I have more access when they're in my home.
One of the things that I've seen sitting in on some phone tech presentations across the state, most of us do have either an iPhone or an Android. And in going in and presenting some tools on how to use, I'm really surprised that many of our attendees, once they get past turning it on and making a phone call, it becomes challenging. So we're taking a serious look at modifying our phone tech presentations and keying on 2 or 3 items. One being, do you know how to text? Can you send a text? Can you receive a text? Do you know how to put a picture on your text? Are you using Facebook? Are you secure with Facebook? Some of the very basics. And we're finding that a lot of our attendees are struggling to even follow those instructions. So now we're looking at having a facilitator on site for 1 or 2 attendees to help them work their way through those phones. So that was something that we learned and just observing. We assumed that if you had an iPhone or an Android, you were good with all the tools. That is certainly not the case. And so we're stepping back and try to bring that more user friendly. And my father-in-law, who's 80, 85, almost 86 years old, is a perfect example of that. I thought that he's had a phone for years and years and years, that he was up to speed. That's not the case. The other thing that we're seeing is the virus is really impacting social inclusion.
Mm.
And I think if we want to focus on something, we need to kind of look at social inclusion. How do we bring the people together? I asked a question on a couple events. I hear all the challenges and all the problems that COVID has brought you. Has COVID brought you anything good and positive? And one of the things I hear, I now know how to use Zoom to communicate with family, with friends. So there are good things, but it goes back to that social inclusion. How do we stay connected with our aging community? Just a little insight.
I like that. Thank you, Bob. All right. Any other things on survey or anything?
I can give you a review of the recent surveys we've done in Jamestown. Updated the comprehensive plan as well as the Parks and Recreation comprehensive plan. I went through those my question compared to this AARP age friendly survey, and only about 2 questions were asked about Parks and Rec and about just quality of life in general. So I do think this would be a very different survey than what we've asked in the past, at least the recent past. Coming up, so we do as the town have an ADA transition and assessment plan. That's something required by the state for federal funds. We will be doing an ADA survey. That's not a super in-depth survey, but it will ask mostly questions to, do you have any identified ADA issues that the town needs to look at? So we'll probably ask the AARP committee when that comes out to help us push it with any groups you're parts of, but that survey will be coming up as well. But again, as far as any surveys we've currently done, I would say that this is very different than any questions we've asked in the past.
Yeah, I thought there was going to be a lot more overlap. So that was nice to see that. Yes, I think some are going to inform the others and be helpful together. Like I think the committee is going to be able to look at the past surveys and find some good things out of them. But yeah, I was kind of surprised.
What's a realistic time frame for the survey? Because I'm sort of like Laura, I think she's saying, let's do the survey, but in the meantime, let's do something else too.
Well, would we want to, work with Bob about some of these workshops that could be done virtually, and maybe see if we could get one for February and March, and maybe April, and have that as something we can promote that's sort of already going on. And then, but at the same time, I mean, I'm seeing, as far as the survey goes, maybe going back between now and our next meeting and kind of seeing where questions could mesh together or which ones don't really apply or which ones we want fleshed out more. And then talking about the survey again at the next meeting, but then have sort of calendared these virtual opportunities in between. Does that sound? Or if healthy things open up, get together in person and be able to do some.
Right. Well, I know he had talked about projects, that we need to do some projects. And I think, does our Christmas on Main, when we collected and then took to the nursing home, does that count as one of our projects
Yes.
that we've already done?
Yes.
And so would this count as another project? Is it something that you're talking about they attend online? Like, can they click a link and watch it? Or is it something they have to join in while it's going on?
The programs are presented live. We do, normally we present the program via Zoom. And you can sign in and watch from home, or up until recently, we were doing them both. You could sign in from home, or you could do in person if you felt like it. I have done Home Fit as part of a Facebook presentation that we can record, and that can lay out there on your website, either your home Facebook page or your town page, and people can pull that up and look at it at their own time. So it's available either way. We're pretty flexible as to how to present.
Okay.
And there are lots of great resources already on the AARP website. I mean, I feel like there are a lot of those already done, but it is kind of special to have the live program, and especially if there's the opportunity to ask questions, or even if it has to be virtual, to know that it's other people in your community too. So it's sort of community building, even if you're not able to all be in the same room. We can, I feel like, put more of our Jamestown mark on it that way.
Yeah, the Home Fit particularly is available offline. You can download the book and look at, or you can order a hard copy. The slide presentation that I work with is about 70 slides long. So I'll take those 70 slides and I'll break them down based on the audience that we're going to be sharing with. So it can become overwhelming looking at it by yourself, but if we do it as a discussion, it becomes more of a roadmap and an opportunity to do some things and go forward. So really would suggest doing it as a discussion, but then again, we can record it and make it available for those that want to go back and look at it again, or those that want to look at it and view it the first time.
And do you think it would be realistic to do a live virtual program in February? Is that?
Yeah.
Is that okay? And now you had also mentioned the shred event.
I guess was waiting to hear. I think you had mentioned, or someone had mentioned, that a financial services group or someone else had done them previously.
Yeah, Anna, do you know if?
Yeah, that was me too. Yeah.
Okay.
LGFCU has typically hosted a shred event once a year, I believe, in Jamestown. I have to look up what month that was. I know it was sometime during Music in the Park month, but I can look it up real quick.
So a lot of times from my previous experience, they're usually held in the spring, sometime usually around tax season, when most people are cleaning for the paperwork. It's usually done between April and May is when it's a popular time.
Yeah, AARP would be happy to fund that project. If you want to connect with someone that you've used in the past and work out a schedule, we'd be happy to fund that.
The last one we did was in August.
And that was successful. I remember how crowded it was. It was busy.
Yeah, I feel like, judging from that, we could probably have a shred event a month, and unless everybody purged everything in August, which is probably not true. So Okay, well, maybe that's another
Well, I
thing
think what
that-
happened is, yeah, I think it was a virus. Everybody being home and had the same, because generally previously it just wasn't wasn't that, they haven't been that busy. People do come out to them, like I said, but they really enjoy it tax season.
Yeah, tax season is usually a challenge in scheduling a shred event because there's so many other ones being scheduled.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's a perfect time. Tax season makes sense, but then
Well,
again,
you could do them anytime.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
No, you could do them anytime. Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe we can kind of talk behind the scenes with staff about when they think would be the best time for that, or the logistics of that, and then maybe bring it back up at the next meeting, or via email or something, just to think about a date or who would be used for that. So yeah, that sounds good. All right, anything else about the survey or an event? I was going to do a quick recap, and Susan can as well, about the Santa for Seniors donation that we did. That went very well. I mean, it was kind of, it was more of a last minute thing, but it seemed like the need was there. And we ended up, thanks to Susan, working with Shannon Gray, and taking folks, since we do have a nursing home right here and rehab center right here in Jamestown, and we're able to take a trunk load of donations up there. And it was great. I sorted through everything, and we had a really good variety of things, but also, everything was high quality. We had a lot of socks, some gloves, puzzles, crossword puzzles, Sudoku, all kinds of different things like that. Lots of adult coloring books, some really cool ones in there. So the folks there, and I guess Susan had a connection to the home up there. So I guess what you were able to get in contact with the activities person, was it?
Yeah, it's assistant activity director, and she was real pleased to get it. So yeah, I'm sure some of those people don't have anybody who visit them or bring them anything. For my mother-in-law, she passed away in October, but she was up there. So I saw a lot of people who really, I know, would be really pleased to have anything come to them. So this will be really nice.
And I had seen that Laura, was it the Women's Club that had done a drive as well?
Yeah, the Women's Club worked with the Adams Farm Assisted Living Facility and identified 6 individuals that we bought specifically for and delivered that for their Christmas. And we also made lots of Christmas cards that we took for the broad organization. And then my church circle, we do the Meals on Wheels the first 3 Wednesdays of each month. And we put together a snack food treat bag and delivered that to each of the recipients. I know that we had 4 extra bags, and they ended up going to the family that the home burned over the couple of months ago. And so they got the extra bags that we put together. So had some good things going on.
Yeah. It's always exciting to see, the whole community is doing good stuff. But, certainly thank you to everybody who donated or who told other people to donate and just raised awareness of it. And, certainly it was great to be able to have that box right in the town hall lobby. So folks who would come in during Christmas on Main, or even just throughout the week, it worked out really well. And that box was stuffed. And then there was one down at the bakery too. But I think just the foot traffic in town hall did really well for that. And I'm sure staff donated as well. So I think that worked out great. And even though it was kind of a bit of a last minute situation, some people want to give around Christmas. So I think it worked out well. So was there anything else specific, or should we talk about next meeting dates, knowing that I've been writing down notes on both the survey and that programming for the spring, that we can look at dates and kind of do more of the survey editing stuff in between meetings. Anything else people had? All right, well, so next meeting wise, Anna, do you happen to remember how often we're doing we're doing these?
Every other
Every six-
month, so every other month would be March 3rd, unless you have a need to meet more often. You typically are the first Thursday of the month. So, but March 3rd would be the, to keep on schedule.
March 3rd sound good? Excellent. And hopefully things will, be at such a point early March that we can get back together in person. But it is nice to be able to have this option, if not, so. Anything else, or are people ready to start their Thursday evening? All right.
Have a great evening, everyone.
Thanks. Y'all too.